In my 15 years of marriage, I never imagined facing such a complex emotional entanglement. My wife, Lucilov, once the love of my life, suddenly proposed to try an open marriage. At first, I was firmly against it, but facing the threat of divorce, I compromised. However, when I thought we had found a balance and were enjoying this so-called freedom, I discovered that it was all just a game she had meticulously planned. Let's formally listen to today's story of infidelity. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for your support. Jealous wife demanded an open marriage. She cheated on her former partner, stalked me once I found someone. He liked our daughter and now wants to end our marriage. I'm 39. My wife is 37. My wife and I have been married for 15 years. We have 2 children, a 14-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. About a year and a half ago, my wife approached me and asked for an open marriage. She stated that she was bored with just us and wanted to experience more. I was opposed to this because I believe that marriage should be between 2 people at the same time. When we married, I had 5 sexual partners, whereas my wife had only been with me. She made it clear that either we opened things up or she was going to file for divorce. Neither of us wanted that, so I agreed to certain conditions. Nobody brought anything back to the house. We don't talk about partnerships. The children don't know. Nobody in my family knows all partners have been tested ahead of time. Nobody we know, etc. I had a strong suspicion. My wife had someone in mind, and when was this confirmed? She left 24 hours after we agreed and did not return until 4 a.m. It was difficult for me to accept and I was not comfortable with it, but I wanted to save my marriage. Last May I met Amber. Our daughters are in the marching band together. Amber is divorced and has no desire to get married again. She has needs, just like everyone else. So 5 months after reopening the marriage, I started sleeping with Amber. Initially it felt like cheating, but to be honest, it's nice to have something with no strings attached that neither of us wants to move forward with. Over time, I became confident that my wife and I would be able to meet our needs both within and outside of our marriage. It increased the intensity of our sex life and made us happier. My wife and her side guy, whom I had never met, stopped seeing each other in April due to coronavirus. According to my understanding, he's in an open marriage, but his wife is unaware and it was difficult for him to leave. In May we assisted in organizing a Zoom concert for the band kids, which went extremely well though. My wife met Amber for the first time. I believe Amber has been open with a few of the moms because it was revealed to my wife that Amber was my outside partner. My wife informed me that, since we both knew Amber, I needed to end things with her. I declined, citing the fact that neither of us knew her ahead of time and the meeting did not violate the rules we had established. She has repeatedly told me over the last month that she is uncomfortable with me continuing to sleep with Amber and that we should end the relationship. Take note that she was fine for a year when she was with her partner. This weekend, she approached me and stated that she wanted to end our marriage again. I told her I was open to agree to keep it closed in the future. She agreed that is what she wants as well, but she does not need to have any more partners who she's content with. It's just me. I told her that we could agree to end the marriage under 2 conditions. The first I described above. The second thing I wanted her to do was sign an document waiving spousal support in the event of divorce. She flipped out. She categorically refused to consider that my wife is amazing and hasn't worked since we married. She said I could keep seeing Amber and leave her with nothing if she signed the agreement. I told her that I was willing to include a list of mutually agreed upon situations, and including my infidelity, in which the agreement would be null and void. She says it's not up for discussion, that she won't be cheated on and left with nothing if I leave her for Amber. I explained that the entire thing was her idea and that I was only going along with it to save our marriage. She says that if we don't end the marriage, it's as good as done. I told her that I would not tolerate being threatened with divorce every time she didn't get her way. She says I'm being dramatic and I need to focus on us should I agree without conditions. I know there is no future with Amber, as we have both agreed. It's all physical, and despite knowing I'm standing my ground, I feel like I'm destroying my marriage over a dead end. At the same time, I don't think it is about Amber at all. Update 1. Based on what some of you have said here this morning, I called Amber, reminded her that we were supposed to keep things private and asked her. She disclosed the specifics of our liaison with. She denied telling anyone, and I didn't suspect she was lying. I checked my wife's Google timeline history and discovered that she followed me to Amber House in April. She followed me and then purposefully introduced herself to Amber to incite conflict. I thought she wanted to get involved in Van P parents, but she just wanted to end things with my outside partner. I'm not sure what to do at this point. Comments. Frosty. I believe your wife flipped because she has no intention of staying with you long term up. That is exactly what I thought. Believe me, my intent is not to defraud her financially. She's coming from the perspective that she's confident in us now and ready to wrap things up. What about a year or two from now, when she decides she wants someone else and wants to open things back up? I will not be blackmailed into divorce every time she wants it both ways. John Miller. Your marriage has already ended. Good luck up. I am coming to that realization. I hate it, but she isn't the same person. I married Lady Magpie while he was in an open marriage. His wife is unaware, so he is simply cheating on her. Then what yet? Apparently my wife believed it was open. He assured her it wasn't. He was just screwing around with his wife without knowing whether she still wanted to end the marriage and if the divorce will still proceed. I first asked if she was willing to agree that, once closed, it would remain so. Then I asked her if she would agree to waive spousal support in the event of divorce. Then I asked if she'd be willing to waive it only in certain circumstances, such as a cheating or my refusal to reopen the marriage. She refused to discuss it. I don't want to be in a situation where, 6 months from now, her outside partner wants to restart the marriage, sees someone else she's interested in and threatens me with divorce again if I don't open the marriage back up. I have no intention of financially exploiting her. I wanted to see how she'd react to my request for a guarantee that she wouldn't ask me that again. She made it clear that she was not going to put her money where her mouth is. Update on how he met Amber. I met Amber through her parents. Our daughters aren't particularly close. They just play in the same band. My wife was not involved in the band at all because it was not her thing with quarantine in effect. She was looking for things to do and decided she wanted to help with the concert at that time. Should I have said no? You can't, because my outside partner is a band mom and I don't want you involved in that group. She was in my circle, not my wife's. My wife had nothing to do with the band until about a year after I said Amber. It turns out there was a very specific reason. My wife unexpectedly decided to join the band. I became involved with Amber in May of 2019. She's been with her guys since December 2018. To recap, my wife expressed a desire for an open marriage. I didn't but agreed. When she said she was going to file for divorce, she found an outside partner within 24 hours. It took me several months. Her partner and she split up. She stopped me and introduced herself to my partner in an attempt to force me to end it. When that failed, she demanded that the marriage be closed again. I imposed conditions that she was unwilling to accept. Now we'll move on to the last month. It's been a very difficult month. I confronted my wife regarding the stalking. She denied it at first. Though I brought up her location history, she tried to deflect by claiming that I had invaded her privacy, but I refused to fall for it. Finally, she admitted that she disliked the fact that I had someone on my side while she did not, and that a mother at the school felt too close to home. I agreed to end things with Amber if she agreed to counseling, ended the marriage permanently, and began looking for work to help with household expenses. She replied that she's a stay-at-home mom. I told her we could go back after the coronavirus had passed, but she couldn't just stay at home. Once things returned to normal, we had a few therapy sessions and everything went well. At first the therapist asked her why she had followed me. When asked why she felt compelled to leave the marriage, she provided her address. Almost everything is going through my mind. Then everything went south. She admitted that her outside partner was a former high school boyfriend. They had broken up before anything happened and then reconnected. She regretted not going all the way with him in high school and resolved to fulfill her desire. I was pissed. I told her that if Chojing, a month from school, was too close to home, then her choice of a married ex-boyfriend was totally unacceptable. I said I didn't want to look at her. I checked into a hotel to cool down because I didn't want my children to see me like that. I stayed there for a few days before returning home to deal with the remaining issues in my marriage. When I got home, I noticed that my daughter was acting unusually cold toward me. Even for a 14-year-old girl, she was extremely dismissive. When I asked her what was going on, she ripped into me for cheating on mom with a bad mom. I asked her where she had heard this. She refused to tell me at first, claiming it didn't matter, but eventually admitted her mother had told her that I was staying at my girlfriend's house. After I left, I counted to 10 and my brain told her it was not true. I showed her the hotel receipt on my phone and told her that her mother and I had a fight and that I had decided to take some time away to calm down. She cried a lot and I reassured her that I loved her and would always love her, despite the fact that I was on fire inside. I tried to remain calm. I did not even go to my wife. I went to Facebook and found the guy's wife. I messaged her and informed her that her husband had been having an affair with my wife for the past year and a half, and I'd be happy to send her any proof she wants. She was grateful and had a feeling something was up. A few hours later, my wife screamed at me, accusing me of violating the confidentiality of our therapy and ruining the guy's life. I asked what she meant by informing our daughter that I had a girlfriend. She denied it and continues to deny that she told her anything other than the fact that I was away for a few days. This happened last Thursday. We haven't spoken since we're supposed to have another counseling session tomorrow, but I'm not sure if it's worth going. I keep catching her in lies and I'm not sure I'll ever be able to trust her again. I understand that filing for divorce is the best option at this point, but just thinking about it makes me sick. I feel like a failure because I was unable to make my marriage work. I know where it will end up. I just feel like throwing up every time I try to call an attorney comments Cadillac on. I appreciate the update. Sorry to hear that therapy is only bringing up more issues and that your wife is drowning in a sea of lies. She has complete trust in her for the sake of the kids. I hope your wife did not tell your daughter that. However, when people are sinking fast, they will latch on to anyone to keep them afloat. And turning the children against you isn't exactly a novel strategy. You are not a failure just because your marriage has ended. At this point, it's probably best to contact that attorney. No matter how difficult the situation is, do it for yourself. Do it for your children. Even do it for your wife, so she can reach rock bottom on her own without destroying your lives. Good luck. Man, you are a resource. Speak to an attorney if you are honest with yourself. Your wife started the relationship after she had or was planning to cheat when things failed. She didn't want you to have fun while she didn't. She does not contribute to the household and has no plans to. She constantly lies. What makes you believe that anything will work to resolve this? When someone shows you who they are, trust them. It's her way or the highway. So as I previously stated, speak with an attorney. Get your finances in order and leave this awful relationship. 0.0. Lisa. 0.0. You did not fail. Your wife wanted to cheat but did not want to call it that she never wanted expected you to do the same. The fact that she threatened to divorce you if you didn't comply is extremely manipulative. The fact that she attempted to harm your relationship with your daughter is the final straw. Personally, I don't think this situation is fixable. But never blame yourself for any of this. It's all about your wife going off the rails and you tried to hold on for dear life. But perhaps it is time to let go. Also, I would be completely honest with your daughter about the entire situation. Everything will come out eventually. So telling the truth rather than spreading rumors and lies is much healthier. Moving on to the next story. So after 30 years, I finally met my biological father. Bonded on his boat and then caught him cheating on my girlfriend at a family dinner, resulting in a pregnancy while still married. My girlfriend and I had been together for nearly 4 years before our relationship ended. We met casually through mutual friends who both invited us to a haunted house attraction for Halloween. Everyone else was with their partner, so we spent a lot of time alone. There was a beer garden at the attraction, so she and I separated from the rest of the group to go there. We discussed everything as we hung out. At the end of the night, we exchanged numbers and began dating officially. She moved in with me about 1.5 years after we began dating. Growing up, I never knew my father. There were many times in my life when I wanted to know who he was. I was told growing up that he and mine became pregnant with me. She is a devout Catholic, so the only option was to continue with the pregnancy. He did not want that. He tried to convince my mother to have an abortion, so she informed him that she did not want anything to do with him. She gave birth to me and raised me as a single mother for the first 12 years of my life. Then she met my stepfather and they had additional children after me. No matter how many times I asked her to tell me who my father was, she always refused. I eventually accepted that I would never know the truth. My girlfriend convinced me to try again. A member of my family died. One of my cousins had cancer and died. That got me thinking about other illnesses my family could have. My girlfriend and I approached my mother and asked her to tell me who my father was. From that angle, I needed to know if I had a history of serious illnesses in my blood. I also told her that I'd like to know when I wanted to have kids. That was the cherry on top for her, and she decided to tell me everything. She gave me his name and I finally contacted him. He was eager to meet me, which I was afraid he would not be. My girlfriend accompanied me to the lunch that we had planned. It was strange seeing him for the first time, because I realized how much I resembled him after everything. It was extremely emotional for me, and I didn't know how to process it. My girlfriend was there for me and comforted me through it all. About a week after our first lunch, my biological father contacted me again and asked if I wanted to see him. He apparently felt bad about our first meeting and decided he wanted to get to know me better. My girlfriend encouraged me to try. I invited her to join me because I found it difficult to do it alone. We all went fishing on his boat and had a great time. We drank a few beers and talked. He told me everything about his family. He was married with 3 children much younger than me. He explained that he wasn't ready to become a father while my mother was pregnant. Before we parted for the day, he and my girlfriend exchanged phone numbers so that we could all schedule time to meet his family. I wanted to meet my half-siblings and my girlfriend was the one who organized it for us. I hadn't seen him for a few weeks, but we had been texting every now and then to stay in touch. My girlfriend informed me that they were planning a dinner at the end of the month at my father's house. I work in construction and I was approximately 50 ft in the air when I dropped my phone on concrete. When I looked at it again, it was completely destroyed. The glass made the screen virtually untouchable. I got a new one as soon as I couldn't transfer everything from my previous phone. I transferred the SIM card. For a quick transition, I had to read a few contacts to the phone because they had not been saved to the SIM card. One of them happened to be my biological father. When I got home later that day, my girlfriend was napping on the couch. I needed my father's phone number so I could tell him I had a new phone in case he needed to contact me. I knew my girlfriend's phone password and had used her phone numerous times before, so I didn't think twice when I grabbed it to send myself the contact information. When I clicked on his name in the contacts, I discovered a lengthy call history between the two of them. It immediately piqued my interest because she had never mentioned that they had been talking on the phone. I walked into the other room and checked the message and call logs to see what was going on. Their messages began the day we all boarded the boat together, a few hours after they had exchanged numbers. My father texted my girlfriend, telling her how lucky I was to have her. It started off friendly and she thanked him, saying she was lucky to have me as well. Then my father became very flirtatious with her. He told her she was beautiful and that if I didn't treat her properly, he might have to intervene. It was strange to see, because I was aware that he was married with children. My girlfriend replied, saying she would gladly let him step in if necessary. Other messages followed, all of which were highly suggestive. They were always tiptoeing around, openly stating that they wanted to sleep together. It was obvious what was going on, but it didn't appear to be anything more than flirting until my father sent my girlfriend a photo of himself. He told her in a nude photo that a new picture she posted on Instagram had really turned him on. My girlfriend told him she was relieved it did, then sent him more pictures of herself. There were videos, audio recordings, and dozens of photographs among them. I clicked on one of the videos my father had sent her. He was telling her about the filthy things he wanted to do to her. When they finally came together, I could hear kids running around outside the room where he was. The messages made it clear that they had not intended to have sex in person, yet they planned to sneak away to his boat while everyone was at his house. Before my girlfriend woke up, I returned her phone and pretended I didn't notice anything. Everything hurt me deeply. My father had known I existed my entire life, but pretended I didn't. Now that I had the opportunity to contact him, he betrayed me by hitting on my girlfriend, and my girlfriend realized how important it was for me to meet him and agreed to sleep with him. I felt deeply betrayed by both of them. I knew right away that I wanted them to suffer for their decisions. I sucked it up and pretended everything was fine until dinner time, which was only a week away. The day of the dinner, I controlled myself and made it through the meal without lunging across the table to attack my father. I spent a lot of time getting to know my stepmother, and I felt bad for her through everything. Honestly, if he messaged my girlfriend after only knowing her for a short time, I wouldn't have been surprised to learn that he had previous affairs. After dinner, we decided to watch a movie together. My father stated that he was not particularly interested in watching the film, but he needed to finish some things on the boat. He excused himself from the film and nobody questioned it. Approximately 15 minutes into the film, my girlfriend said she received a phone call. I didn't notice her phone ringing or lighting up. It was a cover to go outside and meet with my father. She was gone for about 3 minutes, and I turned to my stepmother and said it was strange that she had been gone so long. All of the kids had already fallen asleep on the couch, so I was relieved that I wouldn't disturb them by making a scene. When I told I was going to go check on my girlfriend, she paused the movie to give me a moment. I knew I wouldn't see her on the porch, but I looked anyway. Went back inside and informed her that she was gone. She was concerned, so she and I went outside to look for her. She suggested we ask my father if he had seen her, so I followed her to the boat where we were both aware he was working on something. As soon as we opened the door to the lower level, we could hear very obvious sex sounds. She yelled out my father's name and the sound stopped. It took a minute, but he approached the bedroom door and asked her what she needed, as if she were bothering him. She asked what he was doing and he said he was rearranging furniture. I almost wanted to laugh. I asked him if my girlfriend was down there with him and he said it was ridiculous. I pushed past him and opened the door to find her attempting to put on her clothes quietly as possible. As events unfolded, everyone got into a four-way argument. Honestly, even though I suspected we'd find out what we did, my reaction was fairly natural. I was hurt, angry, and I let it show. Nobody knew that I had almost planned for us to see what happened. My stepmother kicked my father out of the house that night, so I went back to her apartment to pack a bag and leave. I couldn't be with my girlfriend. After what happened, I ended up leaving the apartment entirely. A few weeks later, I found out that my father was looking for a place to crash, so my girlfriend invited him over. After a few months of dating, my girlfriend became pregnant. My father appears to have followed a pattern in how he handled situations. He told her that he already had children and was trying to work things out with his wife. He couldn't do that. If there was another baby in the picture, he tried to deny it and even tried to persuade her to have an abortion. She did not want to do that. As soon as I found out what had happened, I informed my stepmother, so she knew he was going to lie to her. She thanked me for the information and assured me that she would remain far away from my father. All of my girlfriend and I's friends were appalled by what she did. They couldn't understand how she could sleep with someone who had such a fragile relationship with her boyfriend, and they assumed she was cold-hearted. Many of them stopped talking to her after everything. She had a child with my father, but he was not in the picture. My father divorced his wife and was required to pay child support and alimony from his paychecks to her. Furthermore, because a DNA test confirmed that he was the father of my ex-girlfriend's child, he was ordered to pay child support. I doubt he saw any of his own paychecks. Here's the next story. For the past few months, I've noticed minor changes in Margin behavior. At first, I dismissed them as work-related stress or quirks that occur in long-term relationships. Things like her wearing new perfumes or returning home late without explanation appeared minor. I trusted her after all. We've been married for 23 years and trust is essential in any marriage. Correct. However, those minor changes became harder to ignore. Late night texts she quickly hid, suddenly needing passwords for her devices, things we hadn't done before. I felt a pit in my stomach knowing something was wrong, but trying to convince myself it wasn't. Everything changed. One Wednesday evening I arrived home early hoping to spend some time with Sarah and overheard her on the phone in our bedroom. She was saying, "Yes, sweetie. Today was wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed it." That was not something she would normally say about work. Curious, I peeked in and saw her undressing in black lace underwear I had never seen before. Then she said, "I got to go. You could return home soon. Talk to you tomorrow." Stunned, my heart sank. I noticed a hickey on her bosom, which I hadn't given her. She appeared frustrated as she realized it, muttering something about having to hide it. I stood outside our bedroom crying and shaking. We've been married 23 years and have 2 children. Lily 19 and Max 18. Until that point, I believed we had a strong marriage. Sarah seemed to need someone else to make her happy. After calming down, I picked up her phone to check on the last call, but it was locked to password we had never used before. Her blouse smelled faintly of aftershave. I didn't recognize her and I discovered her underwear in the hamper. I started in a Ziploc bag and intended to order a seed detection kit. I installed a hidden camera in the bedroom and attempted to access her laptop, but it was also password protected. More evidence? I wanted to confront her, but I had no evidence and was overly emotional. Instead, I called her, pretended to be stuck at work and went to a nearby bar to think things over. I needed to know who she was seeing and make sure he paid for it. As I entered the bar, I noticed a new bartender named Emily. I had hoped she could make a good gin and tonic and she could. We chatted and I discovered she was a divorced mother trying to make ends meet. I arrived home around 11 p.m. with the house quiet and everyone sleeping. Sarah told me, as I wasn't resting, "You're late tonight, hon." I replied, "I apologize for waking you. The day was long. If you feel neglected, I will make things right." She exhaled. "I'm just too tired right now. Perhaps in the next day or 2. Okay. I'll take some time to relax before joining you." "Good night," I said, grabbing the recorder and heading downstairs to my computer. As I watched the footage, I realized our closeness had decreased from 2 or 3 times a week to once a week, and lately only on Saturday nights. Sarah was seen checking her bosom in the mirror, clearly examining my hickey. Despite the fact that she usually sleeps naked, she changed into flannel pajamas. I saved the video, cleared the camera, and turned up the thermostat to see how she liked the flannels. Sarah appeared to be asleep. When I finally got into bed Thursday morning, I left early to avoid her. I was too angry to calm my feelings and required time to plan. I called the office and said I'd be in later. Then I contacted my friend Daniel, who had been through a difficult divorce after discovering his wife cheating. Daniel now serves as a major in the National Guard in charge of base security on the second ring. Daniel responded, "Hey, buddy, how are things going? Not great." I said, "I believe Sarah is cheating on me and I need your help." "David, I'm deeply sorry." He responded, "Come over now and we'll figure it out at Daniel's place." We discussed what I knew, and when I left an hour later, I had a plan and borrowed 5 digital audio recorders from him which he had used during his divorce. When I returned home, I noticed Mark's car was gone. I placed her recorders throughout the house, saving the last for her car. The house felt cooler than usual, and I noticed she had turned the thermostat back down, probably after a hot night. While searching her closet, I discovered some outfits and lingerie that I had never seen before. Some were even torn, which was painful to discover. Around 3 p.m. I left Sarah a voicemail stating that I'd be home late that evening. placed the final recorder in her car and went to bed with her. I checked the recorders and found nothing suspicious. On Friday night I went to bed late again, and on Saturday morning I quietly prepared breakfast for the kids while Sarah slept. After that, as is our weekend custom, I cleaned up microwave breakfast and turned off our router's wireless access before heading outside to do yard work. Sarah came outside about 2 hours later, frustrated because her laptop couldn't connect to the internet. We went inside and I checked my laptop, which said that it was connected. "Let us look at yours." She appeared nervous and hovered around as I pretended to troubleshoot. When she wandered off, I quickly installed a keylogger to monitor her activities. After ensuring that the laptop was connected, I approached Sarah and informed her that the hard drive needed cleaning. I suggested she run a program overnight allowing the keylogger to transfer data to me. She flirted and asked how she could repay me. I jokingly suggested she wash my car, which clearly didn't elicit the response she expected. I kissed her cheek, told her I had more work to do, and then left to mow the lawn. I realized I needed to behave normally until I had solid evidence. That evening we watched movies with the kids and Sarah became frisky. At times, during a break, I took one of her pills to ensure that I was too sleepy to be intimate. Later I went to bed early, which disappointed her. Sunday morning I awoke at 5 a.m., eager to avoid any morning closeness. While also checking her data, I began reading the keylogger files and discovered 5 emails, including some from a guy named Will Price. One email titled "Hey, hot stuff" hinted at his attempt to seduce her. Recent emails revealed their affair. Sarah was upset with him because he left it on her, making it difficult to hide from me. He ignored her concerns and insulted me. In his response, Sarah responded by admitting she loved me and did not want to jeopardize our marriage. She said she couldn't let me see her and rest due to the mark she can hold the next meeting. His follow-up emails were apologetic, offering a trip and expressing his love. She replied that she would only travel with me and not meet him. Other emails revealed that they had been meeting at a local motel for approximately 2 months. This is the same motel near the bar that I recently visited. A new email from him has arrived. I replied to one she sent last night and it hit me hard. She told him she couldn't go without seeing him this week and agreed to him on Wednesday at 1 p.m., requesting that he be gentle. His response was full of praise and promise. At that point I realized they both had to pay for their actions and I needed Daniel's assistance. I forwarded the emails to Daniel and began preparing breakfast. Sarah arrived around 9:30 and thanked me for letting her sleep in. She hugged me and whispered, "Don't work too hard today. Sweetie, I need you tonight." I ignored it and explained that I only had a few hours of work left. When I looked back, I noticed a worried expression on her face, but she quickly hid it. I said, "Yo, if you need anything, babe." She replied weakly, "Okay." Later Daniel called and asked if we could talk. I stepped outside and answered yes. He told me he had read the emails and apologized. He reminded me that while I had evidence, it was insufficient for court proceedings. Daniel suggested we do more than just take photos, install hidden cameras throughout the motel room. He knew the motel owner from previous investigations and was able to obtain a key under the guise of an open case. Daniel described the plan to install cameras in the room and transmit the footage to a receiver within 1 FT. I could get the data by driving by and activating the receiver. We agreed to have everything set up by Monday or Tuesday. Sunday was uneventful. Sarah came into my room that night and I pretended to be asleep. I left the house early Monday morning before anyone else awoke and went to George's. He called the motel manager, who gave him some useful information. Price apparently shared the room with several women and was a creep to the staff. He rarely arrived before 11 a.m., which worked in our favor. We got our equipment and headed to the motel. Daniel introduced me to Kevin, the manager, who did not want any illegal activity at his motel, and handed us the room key. Kevin also gave us access to a nearby utility room, which was ideal for the receiver. After confirming that Price was not present, we entered the room and installed the cameras. In less than 2 hours, as we exited, I noticed a laptop docking station on the table, a reminder of the betrayal that had taken place in that room. Look, Daniel. He must be using his laptop. I almost yelled. If I can get him when he's not around, I could set up a keylogger. I added perhaps he leaves it here when he goes for lunch. I'll wait outside every day if necessary. Daniel responded, first let's put a GPS on his car. So we're not surprised. I suggested don't rush things. Daniel warned we can't mess up the plan. Let's have lunch across the parking lot. They've got good food and a new barmaid. She's pleasant and easy to talk to. I observed. That sounds good. I'm hungry. Daniel agreed. When we arrived, the bar was empty. Emily saw me, smiled and waved. However, when she saw Daniel, her expression changed. She dropped the towel she was holding and rushed over to hug him tightly. Daniel, it's great to see you again, she said. He hugged her back warmly, saying, Emily, I've been wondering about you. I'm glad to see that you're doing better. She held him and responded, not there yet, but getting closer. Thanks to you. I introduced them and they both laughed. Emily stated, I've liked you since we met and knowing you're Daniel's friend means a lot. I was joking, he's in, but he's fine. She smiled and said, Daniel and I go way back, but I've never thought of him like that. It must be a guy thing. Emily continued to serve other customers while also returning to chat with us frequently. I discovered she was working hard to save for nursing school by 2 p.m. Daniel and I were the only ones remaining. Emily mentioned that it was usually quiet in the afternoons, which was bad for tips, but allowed her to study. She continued, but it's nicer talking with you guys. After about 30 minutes, Emily became serious and said, I'm going to tell. Daniel nodded and she looked at me, saying, if we are going to be friends. I do not want any secrets. You may not like me after this, but I would rather you hear it from me. She took Daniel's hand and explained, I met Daniel when he arrested me. He placed me in a cold, filthy cell. When I broke down, he began yelling, not calling me useless, but telling me I was hurting myself. Nobody had ever said that to me. I broke down and told him everything while crying. After hours, he squeezed my shoulder and left me in the cell for 14 hours. When he got back, it was time to see the judge. She proceeded. Normally you clean up before court, but Daniel made me go, as is. When the judge was about to sentence me, Daniel asked to speak in full uniform and told him that jail was not for me. Regardless of my past, I needed rehab. Daniel stood up for me. The judge gave me 90 days in rehab, with the threat of 4 years if I messed up. I haven't touched crack since Daniel caught me stepping back and looking at us. Emily softly said, Daniel. David, I am no longer on the streets, but I am still a hooker. It's the only way I can save for school while also supporting my daughter. If you do not want to talk to me anymore, I understand. I'm sorry. Daniel. We both hugged her. Daniel explained, as long as you fight, I'll be there for you. I know you'll make it. I added, Emily, I'm glad we met and proud to call you a friend. It was a good thing. The bar was empty and we were in a dark corner while Emily held us and cried. Monday evening, March returned home with Chinese food. She attempted to kiss me, but I simply took the bags and said, great, we're all starving. When I suggested she change in the bathroom, while I set up, she piled and became silent. Dinner was quiet and the children noticed. Sarah ate little and I mostly ignored her attempts at conversation until I realized I was being obvious. I apologized, explaining that I was distracted by work and we resumed our normal conversation. I made an effort to smile at Sarah and pay attention. Later I checked the voice recorders and found nothing. When I entered the bedroom, it was warm and Sarah was dressed in flannel. I questioned why she was wearing a flannel top. It is not cold. She responded, I'm just cold lately. I hugged her, noticed she was sweating and asked if she was feeling sick. She replied, no, just cold. I suggested warming her up, but she stiffened internally, claiming she was too tired. She promised to make it up to me on Wednesday. But I just said it's fine and we fell asleep. Tuesday morning was tense. I left for work and later spoke with Daniel, who had installed the GPS in Price's car. I checked the website and discovered Price lived across town, so I decided to check the bedroom voice recorder. On Monday morning, Sarah called her friend, Ashley, who was aware of the affair. Sarah expressed a desire to have sex with me on Sunday, but I was too tired. When Ashley asked if I was better in bed than Will, Sarah admitted that I said I made love to her, while Will just screwed her dirty. She enjoyed both, but viewed them as distinct experiences. Ashley then revealed her own affair plans, discussing her past with Brian Sears and intending to see him again while her husband, Mike, was out of town. They joked about Brian's size and soreness. Afterward, Sarah also mentioned the fading mark on her bosom and how she was hiding it from me by changing in the bathroom and wearing flannels. She joked about planning to have sex with both Will and me on Wednesday, something she hadn't done before. Ashley advised her to use a douche before being with me. Sarah agreed and said goodbye to Ashley. I thought to myself, no way. Sarah, you're a liar and Ashley is just as bad. Should I tell Mike and risk ruining his life? It felt wrong, but then I remembered he might be hiding it from me. He deserved to know. Just like I did, I decided to give him a copy of the recording. After dealing with Price, another call from Ashley came in this morning. This time Sarah sounded different. She told Ashley, David noticed I've been wearing flannels and changing in the bathroom with the door closed. I told him I was cold but the room was hot and I was sweating all night. He wanted to have sex but I couldn't let him see the bruise. I tried to make up for it by promising sex on Wednesday, but he didn't seem to care. We just lay there with a wall between us and all I could think about was screwing. Well, not David. I closed the file and saved it. I ordered a deceit detection kit online and had it shipped to my office. Then I drove to the motel. Price's car was parked by his room, so I went to the bar. Emily wasn't working, but I noticed Price in a booth looking at the menu. I decided it was time I knocked on his motel room door, and when no one answered, I entered using the key. I ignored the bed and found his laptop open to a QuickBooks screen. I installed the keylogger, enabled remote desktop access and configured remote control software so that I could monitor his laptop from anywhere. After covering my tracks, I exited the room with his QuickBooks screen back up. I returned to the office, worked for a few hours and left in a good mood. Laura appeared worried at first, but relaxed after I acted normally approximately 10 p.m. She went to bed and said she would see me in the morning. I thought get some rest for your lover tomorrow. I had too much data to sort through that night, so I downloaded the recorder from her car and returned it. When I got into bed, I stayed as far away from her as possible, thinking that tomorrow would be the day Sarah woke up before me on Wednesday morning. It made me sick, knowing she was going to cheat on me again today and I'd have to watch the recording. She was already dressed for work. When I entered the kitchen just on time, "Sweetie, good morning," she said. I grunted and reached for the coffee. When I looked back, she was staring at me perplexed. "Sorry," I mumbled as I continued to wake up. She noticed that I wasn't my normal morning self. The kids arrived and she served breakfast, while I remained distant, noticing her glances at me as she placed my plate down. She paused and, as I was about to leave, she stepped in front of me, worried, and asked, "David, is anything wrong?" I replied after staring blankly, "Not that I know of." I hugged her suddenly and affectionately. She relaxed and said, "I'm glad I was concerned. I love you." I said, "There is no other woman I want to be with." I added, "I hope you feel the same way." She stiffened, sobbed, and whispered, "Of course I do, and I intend to weigh you out tonight." I backed away abruptly and left without looking back. I drove to the motel, downloaded the data while Sarah left for work, and got home around 9 a.m. Sitting in the parking lot, I pondered how I would make it through the day. How could I be normal around her? How could I watch a video of her with another man? Downloading the data from the bugs took some time, and I wandered around the house aimlessly, dreading the prospect of interacting with Sarah tonight or even getting into bed with her. I began with Paris emails and discovered that he ran 3 companies that purchased low-cost products and resold them to the military, Fortune 5 companies and the federal government. In addition to my wife, he had relationships with 5 other women. He also addressed issues of product quality and specifications. I kept a few emails for follow-up, nothing major, but a beginning. Next, I copied his QuickBooks files and used the keylogger to find his logins and passwords. But I wasn't very successful because I'm not a CPA. However, I did notice that he had 6 company credit cards with the numbers recorded in the files. Listening to his phone conversations took time but was worthwhile. I connected some dots between emails and phone calls. One call came from someone in the base's shipping and receiving department. The guy mentioned the problem with duplicate serial numbers and cautioned that future shipments would require unique numbers due to new auditing software. Price was infuriated. After hanging up, he went online to purchase specialized printers and supplies. Another call came from a supplier who wanted to sell to Price. After some back and forth, Price offered to help him get approved as a vendor for €5 in cash, implying that the supplier could also raise his prices by 2. The supplier reluctantly agreed and Price planned to meet with him once the money was ready. Price also received a call from someone in the base procurement section where Sarah worked, who provided him with competitive contract bids. Other notable calls included from his women, one of which was the same conversation I had overheard on Laura's car recording. I took a break and organized the information into folders. I backed up my video, audio, data, and miscellaneous files. I called Daniel after we had commiserated. I told him I needed his assistance in an official capacity. He was interested because his ongoing investigation into the base's shipping and receiving department had revealed missing inventory and discrepancies in physical counts. He wanted to see what I had as quickly as possible. We decided to meet at his apartment at 3 p.m. to review the evidence in private. Daniel insisted on dinner, drinks, and getting me drunk to help me deal. I agreed, hoping it would keep me away from Sarah for the night and provide an excuse to avoid her in the morning. As 1 p.m., I felt sick knowing she'd soon be with Price. I called Sarah but she didn't answer, so I left a message explaining that I'd be late because I was meeting Daniel. Then I got back to work, beginning with the video files from Monday through this morning. To my surprise, early Monday afternoon a woman entered Price's room using her own key card. They hugged and kissed passionately before heading to bed. I've saved the file. On Tuesday morning he had a brief encounter with the housekeeper. Later that afternoon another housekeeper knocked on his door and after a brief conversation, they had a private moment. I saved the scenes for later use. It was time to meet Daniel, so I prepared another backup, including one for him. He picked me up and we spent about 2 hours going over everything I had discovered before heading to the bar. We left around 1 a.m., but that's all I can remember. Thursday morning I awoke around 9 a.m. The house was empty, Margin. The children were gone. There was a note on the table. Because you were so inebriated last night you did not set your alarm. I'm not your wake-up service. I chuckled thinking she was pissed. Good. I will not have to deal with her. I called the office claiming to be sick and then went to the motel to get the video I dreaded watching. On the way home, Daniel called with an update. The investigation was progressing. The person who offered the €5 bribe agreed to wear a wire and they were monitoring Price and his partner's theft methods. Within the next 10 days a raid on Price's office, motel, room and home was expected. Daniel also informed me that Sarah had become a person of interest as a result of an internal procurement leak. I realized I used to think Sarah would never cheat. I thought she wouldn't steal. I returned home and downloaded the motel and house data. I began reviewing Wednesday's footage until 12:30. Then checked Price's emails and discovered a couple more vendors most likely bribed him, which I forwarded to Daniel. I jotted down dates and times from emails with his mistresses when they would at the motel, so I could use his laptop uninterrupted. It was finally time to watch Mark's video. I fast-forwarded to the moment she entered the room, where they kissed and embrace made me feel hollow until tears streamed down my cheeks as I watched her react to him in the same way she did with me. I fast-forwarded and saw them become more physically engaged, which was difficult to watch. Thursday evenings were quiet. The kids were out and Sarah and I barely spoke. After everyone went to bed, I swapped out the data recorder in her car and copied it. I couldn't resist checking the car data, betting she had talked to Ashley on the way to work. Sure enough, Ashley asked, "How did it go?" Sarah replied, "It was fine with Will. I made him be gentler, so I'm not so this morning. Just that well-drilled feeling. He's still rough and he makes me do things I don't want to. But I enjoyed our time." Ashley quietly asked, "But with David, either he came too quickly or couldn't get it right." Sarah wailed, No, he did not even show up. He went out and got drunk with a friend, returned home late to RE of alcohol and collapsed into bed without saying a word." "What have you done?" Ashley asked. "I just laid there fuming as he snored. This morning I turned off his alarm and left him a biting note," Sarah responded. Ashley noticed sometimes we all tie on. "Perhaps it was bad timing," Sarah insisted. "I hinted at Sax and even told him I was going to wear him out last night. But he went to work without saying goodbye." "Do you think he is suspicious?" Ashley asked. Sarah responded, "No. I only see Will while David is at work. I believe David is mad. We've only had sex once a week and she's getting even by ignoring me," Ashley commented. "That's a stretch." Sarah added that he knew he could have me last night, the first Wednesday in months, but he declined. "I really wanted both of them yesterday, even though they made me sore again. It will be cold in the bedroom for a while." Ashley laughed and said, "Sarah, your ego wants both men on the same day. Let it go for now. You've been withholding information from David for months, which he may interpret as a form of control. So perhaps he fought back by denying you." Sarah acknowledged, "You're right. What do I do now?" "Let it go," Ashley advised. "Assume he did not mean to offend you. And there's a good chance David wants you tonight." I saved the conversation because I believe I irritated her and don't want to deal with it. After a few minutes, Ashley called again. "Hello, Sarah." Ashley started. "You mentioned that Will forces you to do things you don't want to. Why do you allow him? He's assertive and gets what he wants. I got him to be gentler, but he's still rough." Sarah responded, curious. Ashley inquired what kind of things yesterday. "He was a little rough, making me very uncomfortable. During our time together I couldn't move because I was pinned against the bed." Sarah explained. "That's not good," Ashley commented. Sarah proceeded. "He also makes me talk dirty, which seems ridiculous, but he enjoys it. He wouldn't stop until I said I love your gonads." Following that, we had enjoyable sex, which Ashley commented. On Thursday evening Sarah attempted to initiate sex, but I ignored her. I went to bed at around 2, was already asleep. "Sorry, Ashley. You are mistaken." On Friday I left for work early and brought the seed test kit with me. I stopped by the motel to get the most recent videos. I had a drink at the bar while waiting and then went home. I tried the kit on Marv's underwear and the results were positive. It didn't really change anything. I had time to go over the new videos and was shocked. The first file depicted a young woman in a military uniform entering Price's room. She drank some wine and initially accepted his advances, but when she refused to leave, he grabbed her, punched her in the stomach and forced himself on her. I couldn't take it anymore and threw up. After I recovered, I saved a copy for Daniel. In the next file, Emily walked in, exchanged money and had sex with Price, confirming what she told us. 2 more files from the afternoon included a call to March in which he requested that she stop by because he was so aroused. Sarah agreed, and the final file shows her giving him a BJ before leaving. I keep these files for Daniel as well. I called Daniel and told him I needed to see him immediately. He suggested coming to my house, but I requested that we meet at his office because Sarah might be home soon. When I handed Daniel the flash drive, I told him there were 4 files on it. The first one is important. I couldn't watch everything and I apologize. You have to. An hour later, Daniel got into my car and said, I'm not sure who she is, but I'll find out and Price will pay let and head to the bar. James, I do not want booze. I want answers. Starting with Emily. When Emily saw us, she motioned for the bartender to bring us gin and tonics. After he served them, she hugged Daniel and squeezed my hand, saying hello to everyone.
It's always nice to see you.
Hello, Emily. It's great to see you too. I replied, slightly distracted. Daniel noticed something was wrong and asked Emily what's going on. Her face dropped and she confessed. Daniel, you are correct. I contracted some venereal diseases. That's why I can't work at the bar anymore. I'm tired of hooking up and have dropped out of school. I'll simply get by as best I can. Daniel firmly replied, You're not giving up on school. You're going to become a nurse. Emily shook her head and said, I can handle this job if I don't have to save for school. That's enough for now. Daniel grabbed her arm and said, No, it isn't enough. You mentioned becoming a nurse in that jail cell and you've worked hard for it. I'm glad you've stopped selling yourself, but I won't let you give up. I added, We will find another way. Emily replied, tears in her eyes. You guys are fantastic, but I can't ask for assistance. This would take advantage of our friendship. I said, Good. You aren't asking, and since you can't stop us, it's over. We will figure it out. We all laughed, and then I asked Daniel, Will there be some openings on the base? Soon before he could respond, Emily became serious. Guys, I have 2 things to tell you. First, I understand you are watching Will Price. I can see his room from the bar and hope you take him down soon. Daniel nodded solemnly. Emily continued. When I learned about the venereal diseases, I screwed in bed back. I was shocked and asked why. She responded coldly. That was the only way I could hurt him. Daniel inquired in a stern tone. Emily, what has he done to you? He didn't do anything to me, but I saw him assault a girl. She stumbled out of his room, bruised and bloodied. She was unable to walk straight while wearing an National Guard uniform. I helped her to her car, but she refused to let me do anything else. Daniel replied, I'll find her and ensure she gets assistance. Price will come to regret everything he has done. Turning to me, he added, I bet David has some nasty ideas that he hasn't shared yet. We will talk later. That night I got into bed around midnight. Sarah was asleep and Daniel was now aware of my plans. He was also looking for a position for Emily at the base, as several openings were expected soon. Saturday was quiet margin. I barely spoke during movie night, she said, sitting between Max and Lily on the sofa, which we usually shared. I noticed the kids were uncomfortable, while Sarah appeared smug. She went to bed early, so I checked the voice recorders but found nothing. Price sent just one email thanking her for Friday and looking forward to Wednesday. Sunday was spent going through the motions. Sarah continued to change into our flannels in the restroom. She got into bed roughly, waking me up, but then turned away. Sensing the growing distance between us, I did not mind she could keep her diseases. Monday afternoon, Daniel called to give me an update. He discovered the victim of the attack and she was now willing to testify against Price. The raid was scheduled for next Monday morning. He advised me to let Sarah go about her week without alerting Price. I agreed and told him I'd tell Sarah I'd be out of town from Wednesday to Sunday, but I'd stay at the motel to finalize my arrangements. Then I called Kevin at the motel and reserved the room right above Price's for 5 days. At dinner on Monday, I informed Sarah and the kids that I would be out of town from Wednesday to Sunday. Lily and Max were disappointed, but Sarah did not respond. On Tuesday, I barely spoke. I packed my bag and placed it in the car, after everyone had gone to bed. I checked the voice recorders. Sarah and Ashley had one particularly memorable conversation. That morning, Sarah complained to Ashley that Pig is ruining everything thing Will, or David. Ashley inquired in confusion. David, we have been ignoring each other for days. He told me he's leaving Wednesday and won't be back until Sunday. Now I can't screw them both on the same day. Damn it. Ashley advised Sarah, you need to fix things with your husband before worrying about your fantasies. This has gone on too long. Yeah, Sarah admitted. But if David would stop being difficult, I'd rock his world. I just don't get why he's making this so hard. Great. I thought she's cheating. But I'm the problem. I saved the file. On Wednesday I went to work early and left around noon to check into the motel. I set up the video receiver and laptops in the room to monitor everything in real time. Around 1 p.m. I watched Sarah arrive at Price's room with her laptop. They kissed, then spent about 10 minutes on their computers before Price picked her up, carried her to the bed and said, I need to drill you, baby. She replied, and I need you to drill me. As they unrest, I muted the sound and remotely accessed their laptops while they had sex. They went at it rough and hard for nearly 2 hours before falling asleep in each other's arms when they woke around 5 p.m. I logged out but kept watching. Sarah woke up first. Realizing the time, she gently woke Price, saying, we'll wake up. We fell asleep groggy. He asked, what time is it? A little after 5, I need to go. Sarah replied, I agree. Price yawned. I promised my wife I'd take her out to dinner. Sarah playfully slapped him and said, I don't want to hear about that. I hear enough about your wife and kids. Softening her tone, she added, sorry. I know we have other lives and I love mine. I just get jealous sometimes. I understand. Price said, this isn't easy for either of us. But I'm glad you haven't been with your husband lately. I like knowing your body is mine. Sarah. His expression changed. It's not yours, will I? I choose to share it with you. But I love my husband and will make it up to him. I enjoy our time together. But I can't risk my marriage. Price shrugged. I don't want my wife to find out either. He went to the bathroom and complained about his sore shoulders. Sarah gave a gasp. Well, I must have scratched you. I apologize. Price muttered, as he examined the marks in the mirror. You scratched the hell out of me. I apologize. Sarah whimpered, wincing in pain and rubbing herself. You promised to be careful. But now I'm turned up again. Price shrugged it off. How am I going to hide these scratches from my wife? They were quick to clean up and get dressed. Price gave her a quick kiss and told her, see you soon. Love her. Sarah returned home clearly in pain after their rough encounter. Oh, she was going to pay. I spent Thursday and Friday alternating between work and personal plans. Sarah called Price on Thursday afternoon and told him that while this had been great, she couldn't him anymore. Amending the situation, they argued but eventually agreed to speak again soon. Late Friday evening, I finished the final data transfers, sent a few emails and then removed the keyloggers from Marge's and Price's laptops, clearing their logs. I accessed Mark's computer via Price's, making sure the login indicated it was from the motel's IP address. I sent all of her active quotes to Price. I returned home Sunday afternoon to an empty house. I took the full voice recorders and cleared them without listening. They decided Daniel could have them along with the one from her car. After unpacking, I had a drink. Lily and Sarah arrived shortly after from the grocery store and Max joined us to put things away prior to the storm. It was a quiet evening Monday morning at work. I received a call from our family doctor's office. The receptionist urgently requested that I come in that day. When I asked why, she explained that the doctor needed to run some tests. Reluctant to leave work without a reason, I inquired for more information and Drive Benson himself called insisting I come in immediately. He explained that Sarah had 3 sexually transmitted diseases and claimed to have only had sex with me, implying that I had infected her. I went to the doctor's office, where a nurse took my blood sample, while clearly not in a friendly mood. An hour later, Drive Benson reappeared puzzled. David, you did not have any STDs. He said, I'm sorry for assuming Sarah was telling the truth. I responded, I am glad I am clean. This confirms that she has been cheating on me. Just then my phone rang. It was my daughter, Lily, sobbing. She said, Daddy, Mom told us you had cheated on her and given her a disease. How could you? I reassured her. Lily, I'm currently at the doctor's office and I have no diseases. Let me get Drive Benson to confront. After he spoke with her, Lily apologized, saying, I'm sorry. I doubted you, Daddy. I told her to tell her brother, but not her mother, that we had talked. As I was about to leave, the receptionist accidentally handed me my test results, along with Sarah's report indicating that Sarah would not be treated kindly when she returned for treatment. I thanked her and went home for the final confrontation. When I arrived, I found Sarah's parents had joined the drama. Her father, a tall and intimidating retired coal miner, glared at me, his fists clenched, ready to fight. He snarled, "You cheated on my daughter and gave her a disease. I'm going to knock you down." Knowing I only had seconds to avoid being punched, I faced him calmly and said, "If I did, you would be right to knock me down." But I didn't. As he demanded, some of his rage faded into confusion. "Please respond quickly." I gave him both medical reports. After reading them several times, he finally looked at me and said, "You are clean. My daughter has a venereal disease which she contracted from someone else. She lied and cheated." I explained that we hadn't had sex in a while, which prevented me from becoming infected. You could not have known that he softened and apologized for his earlier anger. I apologized for the things I said and thought about you. "It's fine," I replied. "My marriage is probably over, but I'm grateful you listened." As we approached the living room, he paused and asked, "Sarah informed us that she has one STD chlamydia, but you mentioned diseases. Did you intend more than one?" "Yes," I responded, "she has syphilis and gonorrhea." His face hardened, and let's go have a talk. I grabbed him by his shirt and pushed him against the counter, hissing, "She may be your daughter, but she is my wife. She should not have dragged her parents and our children into this. But she did. My daughter, Lily, called me in tears and I have no idea what my son thinks. You're here because she drew you into it. But that is it." Looking into his eyes, I added, "Stay out of. This is about my family." "Understand?" He gave a quiet reply. "I understand, David." I let him go and we entered the living room. Sarah and her mother immediately began yelling at me. Max sat crying in a chair, but Lily ran up to me and said, "Daddy, I love you." Max followed and soon I was in a double hug, my mother-in-law cursing me and Sarah crying. Lily noticed the papers in my hand and asked, "Is this the proof?" I nodded and Lily took the papers, showing them to Max. After reading them, they both hugged me even tighter. Mark's mother shouted, "How can you hug that cheating pig? He gave your mother a disease." Lily walked over to her grandmother, knelt down and handed her the medical reports. My mother-in-law buried her face in her hands as she realized the truth. Sarah, Untimra, still crying, screamed, "What's different? He cheated on me and gave me an STD." Lily knelt in front of her mother, showing her the reports and pointing out that I was clean, while Sarah wasn't. Mark's face went pale as she understood. Lily then said, "Mommy, you lied to us. You cheated on Dad. You are a liar." Sarah gasped and attempted to strike Lily, but she blocked it and hissed, "Do not try to strike me again. You've lost it right. You are my mother and I love you. But you're a deceitful witch. You attempted to turn us against Dad to hide your own actions. That is something I will never forgive." She returned and hugged me again, and Max joined her. Sarah looked at us and quickly attempted to defend herself. "Kids, your father must have unknowingly transmitted the disease to me weeks ago. We hadn't had sex in a while because he's refusing me, but I have never cheated. He's setting me up to appear guilty. Please believe me. I haven't been with anyone except him." Everyone was confused and I could see Sarah. His father was becoming enraged again. It was time to proceed to the final level and give Sarah one last chance. Sarah said. I looked directly at the margin. "This is your last chance. I have proof. Tell the truth and maybe we can work it out." She lashed out instead of coming clean. "You liar. You have no proof. Because I have never cheated. Share your proof. You idiot." "Okay. I will, I responded calmly. Mark's confidence waned as I set up my laptop and connected it to the television. I thought my revenge on Price had already begun. Now it's Mark's turn. I didn't intend for the others to be involved. But here we were. I used Price's company credit card to create a website with evidence of the affair. I looked at Sarah and asked, "You ended things with him on Thursday?" "Correct," she sneered. "There is no one except you who knows what will happen after today." "After today? You might need someone else," I said, bringing up an email on the television. "Do you recognize this guy? His name is Brandon Price, Sarah." His face turned pale and she whispered no. He sent me a link to his site. "You are prominently featured." I told Lily and Max that it was time for them to go upstairs. Lily refused, claiming she had brought us into this. "We are staying," Max added. "If you send us upstairs." "Dad, I'll type that address into my computer in 5 seconds. No one else spoke and Max was probably the only one who understood why. I was referring to a website called The Witches of Price. I nodded to my children and clicked the link. A blue screen appeared and Mel's voice said, "Welcome to the Witches of Old Price." The screen filled with images of fully dressed women. As the voice continued, "These are the witches I've screwed. Mostly married women who were easy to entice into bed. I recorded them using hidden cameras." Sarah let out a loud gasp, realizing that her world was about to collapse. The voice changed to sound like Price proceeded. "Check out the witches. I have videos and sound bites for each. For a nominal fee, you can get high-resolution recordings. These women are completely unaware that they are being filmed for the rest of the world." Everyone was focused on the fourth image, Sarah wearing her gray work pantsuit. I hovered the mouse over her picture and we heard "Meet Sarah, the 50-some male, who is actually 44, a little overweight, has a loose tunnel and is a natural witch who enjoys sex." She quickly spread her legs for me. I have lots of videos of her. Click here to see and hear examples of Sarah in action. All eyes turned to Sarah, who was pale and shaking. She whispered, "No. This cannot be happening." I clicked on her picture, which brought up 8 video clips. Mark's eyes widened as she recognized the scenes and she began sobbing. Her mother tried to console her, but her father appeared stunned and our children were furious. I stepped away from the computer saying, "I believe we have seen enough." Lily insisted these could be fakes. "I want proof." She grabbed the mouse and clicked the first clip while Max stood beside her. The video showed Sarah in a compromising position by the bed, performing a physical act and making a playful remark. Lily recoiled with disgust. "How could you do that?" Max remained silent but clearly shocked Sarah. His father hugged his wife while Sarah sobbed. Lily clicked on the next video, which depicted another explicit act, making Mark's mother gasp. Sarah's sobs grew louder as Lily clicked on the third clip. I told Lily that was enough. She reluctantly agrees. She and Max came over to hug me as tears streamed down her face. Mark's parents looked devastated and Sarah cried uncontrollably. After a moment I asked Sarah why. Through her sobs she could only say, "I'm not sure. I'm very sorry." I handed Max my car keys and said, "Kids, go out for a few hours. Get some dinner and come back later." Max responded, "We're good. We will be back tonight." Lily added, "I'll grab my purse and be right out." After they left, I told Sarah that I'd be back in 30 minutes. "We need to talk." I turned to our parents and said, "Please stay. She requires your support." I went for a walk to clear my mind and prepare for what was ahead. When I returned, Sarah and her parents were seated at the kitchen table. Sarah stood up the moment she saw me. "David, thank you for returning," she said quietly. I nodded and sat down. "We have one more issue to discuss." Sarah became pale again. I continued. "Price was arrested today." Her eyes widened with surprise. As I explained, Daniel has been investigating Paris for fraud and blackmail. His office and Love Nest were both raided today. Other members of your office were also arrested. They looked at me stunned. I added Sarah, and they discovered emails from me to Paris that leaked contract details and competitive prices. Mark's head snapped up and she gasped. "No, I'd never do that." Her mother, full of doubt, asked how we could believe Ma's confession, which she did while crying. I know I lied and cheated, and I attempted to cover it up by setting David up, but I did not reveal any work information. If I did, jail would be the appropriate place for me, but I did not do so. I took a deep breath and asked Sarah, "Did you ever bring your laptop to his love nest?" She nodded and whispered yes, so I could work and have afternoons off. I took afternoon off to goof around. She winced and nodded again, tears falling down her cheeks. I pushed on Marsh. "Has he ever accessed your laptop? Have you ever left it connected to the base's network after being with him? Maybe while you were showering or sleeping?" She nodded again, not meeting my gaze. I quickly booted up her laptop and turned off the internet, knowing that I had planned to send a mass email that appeared to be sent by Price. With the internet turned off, emails couldn't be sent. I pretended to be surprised when it requested a password, which she provided. After a moment, I told Sarah that he had installed a remote control program on your laptop that allowed him to see everything. Price has his own login. Her head snapped up. In shock, he set me up. She cried yes. I responded he wanted more than just sex with you. I kept working on the laptop and then said, "Good thing I turned off the internet. There is a task set for emailing that website. Connect with all of your contacts, family, friends, co-workers, and everyone. This is his retaliation for you breaking up with him." Sarah collapsed in despair as her mother consoled her. I added, however, that this may help keep you out of prison. It indicates that he may have accessed your computer and obtained sensitive information. Daniel believes you sent those emails, but this may prove Price did. My revenge plan included making it appear as if Price was responsible for filming his sex scenes. I had moved all of the video files, including the attack video, to his hard drive. This rendered the evidence admissible in court. I also transferred audio files of his blackmail attempts to his computer. Daniel would also use them. Finally, I logged into Mark's computer at Price's motel to make it appear that he had stolen her data. After a few months, Price was convicted of assault, hidden camera recordings, and other crimes. He would serve 11 years before being eligible for parole, and upon release, he would be required to register as a sex offender. The IRS and state tax authorities both pursued him for unpaid taxes on bribes, and his wife served him with divorce papers on his second day of prison. A week later, Daniel and I were in the bar where Emily used to work. She had progressed now, working in base procurement and finally pursuing her nursing school goals. It was nice to see her rebuilding her life. During our conversation, I reminded Daniel to tell me what I owed him for the recording devices we used to take down Price. He smiled and said, "Don't worry about it. But we each spent 1.5 yesterday. Good investment." I chuckled and said this. Gin and tonic isn't as good as Emily's, but it's not bad. Daniel continued, ignoring my comment. I ran into the supervisor of the prison guards. "Price is, he's been following the trial and believes we did an excellent job." I told him that I wanted Price to suffer every day in prison. Daniel then revealed that he had slipped the guard 3-0 to make Price's life in prison miserable. He was targeted by both white and black gangs, as well as military personnel who knew he had attacked one of their own. "The guards will keep him alive, but he will suffer every day," Daniel said grimly. I looked at him and quietly replied, "Thanks." Mike walked into the bar looking rough. He had received a recording of our wife's conversations earlier that day and now wanted to rent surveillance equipment from Daniel. Another marriage on the verge. Another man seeking painful truths. 2 weeks later, Price was scheduled for a civil hearing for tax evasion. March, unbeknownst to me, had been following his trials and was present in court. That day, in a fit of rage, she confronted Price and the situation quickly became tragic. The BFFs reacted quickly, and when the gunfire subsided, silence filled the room. I stood at Ma's grave known. She had been the love of my life, but now she was gone, a casualty of the chaos we'd caused. I got my revenge. But at what cost? I would have to live with the knowledge that my desire for retribution had resulted in this tragic outcome haunting me for the rest of my life. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode of the story, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to get notifications for updates.